YouTube crew, what is going on? And welcome back. Now, today is day 1 of 3 of me helping you become a better sniper on Rebirth. Sniping on Rebirth is easily one of the most fun and satisfying things, especially once you start sniping people out of the air like this. So today's video, as you know, is going to be 7 tips to become a better sniper. Tomorrow, I'm actually going over my top 3 sniper sports, and then on Monday, I'm doing a full sniping gameplay breakdown for you so that you can really see everything in action. Now, for today's video, some of these tips you might actually already know. So, if you feel like you have a good grasp on it, I actually gave you chapters and sections down below, so you can easily fast forward on to the next one. I also put them in a very chronological order, starting from the most basic and then getting into our techniques and everything like that. So, let's go ahead and get into it. So, the first thing that we definitely need to talk about is our settings, and the most important thing here is sensitivity. But before we jump into sensitivity, I want to quickly address stick drift, because I know a lot of people are dealing with it, and it's probably one of the most detrimental components of hitting shots, especially when sniping. So as you can see right here, I am not touching the stick at all, but yet my crosshairs are moving. If you have this issue, you need to fix this. You need to adjust your dead zone. Here's why. Again, not touching the stick at all. Notice how the crosshairs are moving. That's going to affect your shot and make it harder to snipe. So you want to basically adjust your dead zone, make it to the point where your crosshairs no longer move. Now, the next thing that we want to jump into is our sensitivity. Most important thing with sensitivity is there's a comfort factor to it. There's definitely a comfort factor to your horizontal vertical stick sensitivity. Most pros are between 5.5 and 8.8, but you really need to figure out what's comfortable for you. For console players, I always recommend going a little bit higher because of the FOV difference. Now, in terms of custom sensitivity per zoom, this is really what we're looking at when sniping. 5x and above is definitely going to be your snipers, and I stay on a 1. Now, if you're a higher sensitivity, you may want to try to play around with lowering this just a little. If you're a lower sensitivity, 1 probably works, but you may want to bump it up just a touch. Here's how you can figure out if it's the right thing. 2 situations. The first is if you are overcompensating when you're ADSing and you can't seem to just stop near somebody's head, then it's going to be way too high. On the other hand, if somebody is running across your screen or somebody is flying in and you can't keep up with them and you're constantly like the person's running and your scope's kind of like chasing but you can't catch up, then you need to bump your ADS sensitivity multiplier up just a little bit. So that's kind of the big things in terms of settings when we have stick drift, we have sensitivity. Now for my controller players, you definitely want to have aim assist on here. Use that to your advantage. Make sure you have it on standard. And the other thing we want to talk about is our steady aim behavior. I have mine on hold, which means I have complete control over when I am steady aimed and when I'm not. Now, you do on toggle, but toggle means you have to click it more. So I'm a big hold guy. I don't know why. It's just always been normal for me. So I've kept it on hold. So tip number 2 is going to be practice. How do we really start to get that repetition in and feel comfortable with a sniper? And my answer is always going to be Modern Warfare multiplayer bots. And I'm going to walk you through exactly how I set mine up. There's really one main difference between how we set this up and how we set up our normal aim training. So in terms of our game setup, I always, when I'm sniping, go with Atlas Superstore. Reason being is there's a really nice long hallway right in the middle of the map that you can easily snipe down. In terms of our game setup here, mode free-for-all, bot setup is going to be 11 regular. Now for our rules, you can do anywhere from 75 all the way up. I would do 75 before you drop in if you are planning on sniping that day, just to really get warmed up and get in the rhythm. Match start time set to 5, so you skip the whole start scene and everything. For our player, put the health on 150, although it's really not going to matter because of one main setting. Health regen is fast. We're going to go fast sweep with the radar always on. Reason being is I want you to get comfortable using the minimap, but don't get in the habit of just staring at it. Peek it, see where somebody is, rotate that way, and then take them on. Last thing and kind of the biggest thing here, spawn ammo mags max. That always helps out so you don't run out of ammo. We want this thing on headshots only. This is going to force us to really start hitting headshots here and really kind of hone in on exactly where we need to shoot, as well as understanding a little bit of lead time and whatnot. So that's kind of how I set up my bots. I'm going to roll like 30 seconds of gameplay here just so you can kind of see how I use it. And I do switch to my secondary as well, as you can see here, just to get comfortable with the whole concept of switching from gun to gun and still using that to my advantage. So let's go ahead and finish up here, and then we're going to roll into tip number 3. So tip number 3 is you have to be running the right builds, and I'm giving you 4 builds on screen right now: the Modern Warfare Kar 98, the SPR, the Swiss, and the Vanguard Kar 98. Now, which one should you use? At the end of the day, I always say with snipers, it comes down to comfort. Which one do you understand lead time and bullet velocity for? Except for the SPR and the Kar 98. Reason being is, for my controller players, it's been tested and proven that the Modern Warfare snipers, the Kar 98 and the SPR, actually have more aim assist. So yes, it does come down to what you can actually hit your shots with, but just keep in mind that the SPR and the Kar 98 actually have more aim assist, which might make it a little bit easier for you. Before we jump into more actual sniping technique stuff, my whole goal is to simply help you become a better Rebirth player. I took my KD from a 0.7 to over a 4 KD, so if you are looking to get better at Rebirth, just consider hitting that subscribe button down below so that my content gets pushed to you a little bit more, and I do videos every single day. So if you want to know when I post one, make sure you turn on that notification bell as well. So now that we got those 3 things out of the way, let's talk about techniques that will actually allow you to become a better sniper. And the first one is a very simple change. It's a very subtle mindset change that will make a massive difference for you, and that is centering your crosshairs. We talk about it all the time in terms of pushing buildings and anticipating enemies, but the same thing applies to being a sniper and actually having success when sniping. So notice my crosshair on the screen right now is lined up on that guy's face. Now, as soon as I go to scope in, my crosshairs, my reticle is going to be on that person's face. So I want you to start to think about aiming with your crosshairs, not necessarily with the reticle. Use the reticle to make the micro adjustment that you need to hit the headshot. But when you're running around, you want to be centering your crosshairs where you think people are going to be, or, you know, whether it's a window or a doorway or something like that, and then adjusting with your reticle. The other thing to keep in mind is that it's faster to go like this and then scope in than it is to go this way. So you're going to be able to be a little bit more snappy. Boom, we're there. We make the micro adjustment. We're good to go. So that's one thing that I really want you to focus on, is just trying to center the crosshairs a little bit more. And I'm going to show you a few examples of how this helps. Gondola, in gondola.
Okay. Nice. Jack 12, I'm not going to push that. I'm going to back up.
Yeah, this team's got to go, though.
Yeah, they do.
Down this thing caught out there.
I went to get your trade, but he pushed in.
Down one.
Nice. Spy, potentially.
Yeah. I think there's guys out there, though.
So tip number 5 is going to be our methods for sniping, and there's really 2 methods that we want to talk about. The first is going to be hard scoping, and I want to take away the negative connotation of hard scoping. Essentially, what hard scoping is on Rebirth is you see somebody, you anticipate where they're going to be, and you line up your shot. Now, as soon as that person enters your reticle, that's when you go ahead and pull the trigger. Now, hard scoping can be very tough, especially with the movement mechanics of Rebirth, because people are constantly jumping and slide canceling. So you may have your crosshair set up in a good spot, and then that person slide cancels underneath and you miss that shot. Now, the second option that we have is drag sniping, which is really taking advantage of aim assist on controllers. With traditional aim assist, what happens is, as you are going towards the person, you get a slowdown for like a little bit of a window around the person. So by dragging our crosshair from right to left or left to right, we get a slowdown near that person, and that's when we're going to hit the trigger and pull the shot. It's very quick. It happens very quick, but it's really taking advantage of aim assist, and you're going to see it throughout these clips that I'm rolling. Now, what really should happen is you should be using a mix of both. There's situations where it makes sense to hard scope. There's situations where it makes sense to drag snipe. So you really want to get comfortable doing both. It's more so about understanding the situations. Now, tip number 6, I'm going to keep short, sweet, and to the point for you. You need to take the shot. Some of you love to make sure the person's not moving and that it's lined up perfectly and that your win calculations are correct. Just stop hesitating and take the shot. If you miss, you shoot again. The more shots you take, the more likely you are to hit a headshot. And the more shots you take, the more you're going to start to understand lead time and bullet velocity. And you're going to start to really feel comfortable. So stop hesitating and just take the shot, which leads me to point number 7. The break and swap. Now, if you are using a sniper in close range engagements, and I definitely want you to get more comfortable with this in mid-range engagements, which is basically shooting one shot, and then no matter what happens, you switch to your secondary. So if you break the guy, you switch to your secondary, you finish him with whatever your secondary is. If you tag him with a little bit of armor, you switch to your secondary, and then you hit him with your secondary. If you miss the shot, you still do that. And the only scenario where it's not going to really apply is if you do hit that headshot. So I want you to really get comfortable with the break and swap, especially for my aggressive players. And it's not something that, like, you take the shot and you see that you broke him and now you switch. No, it isn't immediate. You take the shot and you switch to your secondary, and now you're going to go ahead and challenge with your secondary. As I mentioned, I am doing my top 3 sniper supports tomorrow, so make sure you are subscribed down below so you don't miss it. Turn on that notification bell so that you get the notification about when I do it. Let's get better today, and I will see you tomorrow.